Hi everyone, I'm Fabio Di Liberto and I would like to welcome you to Archiproducts Design Talks 2023, a series of interactive and insightful conversations on some relevant topics to offer a moment of reflection with some of the most influential international voices in architecture and design. Today we'll be discussing about light, natural and artificial, but also about how the very concept of light is inherently linked to the one of shadow, and how these two concepts and their poetic relationship informs the design process in different ways. Light plays a fundamental role in life on our planet and on our lives, of course. We instinctively know how light and shadow modify the way we perceive space, time, and movement in architecture and design. When we are immersed in light, we might not fully understand its transformational power. We might not necessarily distinguish between the source and the experience that the source allows or enables, the functional from the mesmerizing. So our speakers today will help us unpack this vast and also very poetic topic through their hands-on experience, each one with their own sensibility and experience and expertise. So let me introduce you the panelists. Chad Oppenheim, founder of Oppenheim Architecture. Marius Myking, director of product design at Snøhetta. Barry Richards, principal and studio leader at Rockwell Group, and Lucie Koldova, product designer. So why don't we start with you, Chad? We'd love to hear about your experience and the role that light plays in your design philosophy.
We're very interested in light and shadow and atmosphere. So take through a couple of projects. I had the pleasure of living in Japan, so I have this sense of light, but also shadow, and how shadows are very important. This is a small home in the mountains, and it was an existing home that we cut all these apertures in the home to bring dramatic lighting into the project, sculpting the space and highlighting the materials and the textures of the project. Very interesting light, and what I think is fascinating is how light changes wherever you go. In certain atmospheres, it's very low and very white. Other places, it's yellow. So the subtleties of the colors and the textures begin to play a big part in how each architecture and space reflects light. The idea of fire, obviously, our first light source outside of the sun, is a very important place of centering and connecting within our projects. We're always trying to connect with the place, and the light is very important to that. Not only the natural, but the reflections, and even notions of water, and how they begin to see the passage of time, as you spoke about. So these things are all the ingredients that we like to manipulate within our work, and hopefully the architecture will sort of disappear, and you'll be connected to the place and to the atmosphere. This is a hotel resort project on the top of a mountain, and it's almost like a sundial, if you will. It's about kind of collecting light in different ways. This is a project that we just quickly finished. This is the view from the property. So we didn't want to do anything. We just wanted the light and the sky and the water and the clouds and all these elements to kind of absorb into the space and become what's important, that the architecture recedes and collects these moments. So very neutral palette to play off of all these incredible colors and textures, capturing the beauty of the place in a very kind of elemental way, dealing with with shadow and perforation and elements that begin to kind of take life as the day passes. This is another home in LA that is oriented in different perspectives to capture the light in many different ways from different angles. It's for a movie producer, a movie director, so he's very into lighting the scenes. So we have many different moments of natural light, of kind of hidden artificial light, but the idea is to create this incredible environment that is very pleasing and very calming, and he's a very kind of intense character, so we wanted to create a nurturing environment for him, and that's about the materials and the way they absorb and reflect light. So here you can see the pool and kind of the whole ambiance, but the sky becomes very important as the architecture begins to frame that experience. Here you can see the bedroom, and it's really only about collecting view, collecting light, and the sky. Even something fascinating is that you can see the planes actually flying into LAX, and their lights are on through the sky, almost like shooting stars. I wish I could take credit for this lighting. He actually came up with it. I thought it was a little strange, the angle, but it worked. This is the garage. He makes these movies, the Transformers, so he has all these incredible cars. And then this is an example of how the light is really what we're focusing on, and we're trying to collect it and kind of mutate it into different ways. And here actually you can see the streaking of the planes as the home connects to the earth. Been very inspired by James Turrell, the artist, and how he begins to collect the light of our solar system, if you will. And so this is a home that begins to kind of celebrate these moments. And this is like a little impluvium, kind of a Pompeian Roman feature in the home that collects the sky and the water. But really the palette of most of our projects are very, very neutral to allow for the light and the sky to change them. Someone asked me like where the artwork is, where do you put the artwork? And I'm like, the sky and the light and the shadows, those are really what activate the spaces. This is an outdoor bathroom in the project in Miami. And then you can see how the vegetation casts these incredible dynamic, showing the passage of time and really creating this wonderful home and environment. This is the oculus of an outdoor shower. Zaha Hadid actually came over and she thought this was like our mini Pantheon. It was kind of fun. And then for an apartment in Miami that faces all directions, the whole palette is incredibly neutral, allowing the light to change and really become the kind of sensation of the place, the staircase, the sculptural form, how it takes the light in different ways. And really the color of the sky and the water are the materials of the project itself. Let's see, yeah. So here you can see like a little pool cabana with the reflections of the surrounding. Actually, in that reflection, there's actually a building we designed down on the beach, so it's kind of funny. And then you can see the light traveling through the space, very kind of essential. The architecture, the pool capturing the light and the shadow and the clouds. For a project in the Bahamas, it was very much about letting the place become part of the experience. So we worked with all the existing trees and built a house around it, letting the trees kind of become part of this art, if you will. So here you can see the light as it goes. The house is oriented east to west, so the passage of time and the light and the shadows are always creating this incredible dancing and sensation. And you can see like from the early morning to the afternoon, the passage, it almost becomes like a clock of time. So you occupy the beach in the morning, in the afternoon, the side of the trees, and then just the ever-changing sky from different times, that really becomes the sensational moments that the house brings you to. You can see here some at night, this glowing. We actually tried to hide all the lights because we wanted it to have a little bit more of a primitive sensation. And we think about the architecture in these primitive ways where the sun and the moon and all these things begin to align at certain times of the year, which is very, very important. This is a hotel that we did in Rio de Janeiro. And this has like a incredibly beautiful glass pool on the roof that becomes like the beacon of the hotel. So it's glowing at night, and during the day, you're floating above the clouds and celebrating the incredible light of Rio de Janeiro. And here you can see the pool on the roof, and then the screen of the facade becomes a filter for the light and shadow, and creates these incredible dynamic facade that creates a very neutral palette, helping you to kind of find focus moments within the landscape. Bringing the nature of Rio into the city, the jungle, is very important. And here you can see the sun rising over Copacabana Beach. For a project in Switzerland, a tree museum with Enzo and Nea, the shadows of the trees and the way that they begin to show the passage of time is very beautiful. And then here, the showroom and the reflections on the water. For a water treatment plant, we also used light to sculpt the space and creating these crevices that begin to enliven this very massive and powerful architecture that tries to behave more like geology and crafting these moments. And then just a couple of last projects, a clubhouse in Jordan, using the earth to kind of sculpt space and allowing the light of the place to come in and permeate, and the textures and the materials and mixing all the minerals of the earth to create this incredibly earthen palette, which actually looks good in this room. And just the light filtering through, the minerals capturing, you can see the colors and the sort of depth of the material as the light kind of creates this incredible shadow play throughout the day. In the Red Sea, working on a project where we're carving out of the rock, creating moments of shadow and protection from the sun, protection from the heat. So light actually becomes something you're hiding from occasionally, and so really creating these microclimates, creating elements that are of building that are one with their environment. So creating these moments to really sit and reflect and connect to this magical place, carving into the rock. This room is actually done. The resort is moments away from completing, but here you can see the kind of collection of light in these valleys and crevices of the natural rock. And so here you can see that, and using a lot of candle for this kind of very primitive experience. So there's a lot of candlelight, a fire that brings you up, and it's scattered throughout this mountain. And then the last project is a project where we were looking for invisibility, cloaking, and using light as reflection to make buildings disappear in a very kind of delicate environment where we're building these pods off-site and bringing them into a very pristine environment, not disturbing it, but actually celebrating it. And the reflection of the light on these elements help to actually rehabilitate the reefs and help them flourish. So this is kind of a really interesting play with light and how the sky and the elements of the earth are more the star of the project than the project itself, and the project hopes to disappear and become one with its environment. So that's they're actually all in place right now, but they were built in a shipyard and creating these incredible elements that disappear into our environment. So thank you.
I've been taking a lot of notes. You used a lot of interesting words. I love the idea of this dynamic nature of light that I'm sure changes throughout the day, but also throughout seasons. So it's always new and it's ever changing. So that's beautiful. And also very interesting, this idea of architecture that disappears. It's a step back from you also as a designer. Right? So it's a very humble approach, and yet very monumental in a way. Beautiful.
Thank you.
I think this connection with nature almost takes me to you, Marius, and I would love to maybe learn more about your experience with light and how it inspires your work at Snøhetta.
Thank you. We wanted to also show a little bit about who actually Snøhetta is, or are. And firstly, it's a studio that was founded in 1989 in Oslo, on top of a bar here. And naturally, I mean, light is arguably the most important material that we work with throughout all our disciplines. It's been a big part of shaping the Library of Alexandria, our lookout point at Dovre, overlooking the Snøhetta mountain, shaping the opera in Oslo, which is all built around the contrast of meeting points and transitions, the soft meeting the hard meeting the soft, and also under, which is really acting in play with nature. We also talk a lot about that we are continuously in a state of reinvention as a studio. And in that sense, our studio in Oslo has been the studio that is kind of the base model for all our studios. It's where we meet for lunch every day at 12. We are seated based on a lottery. So that means that an architect can sit next to an interior architect. Landscape architect can sit next to a graphic designer. An intern can sit next to a founder and accounting.
And does that happen every day?
No, we don't have the lottery every day.
Okay.
That's how you get your seat.
Okay.
And we do that quite often to keep the culture alive inside of our studios.
Amazing.
And it's the same thing with our communal dining table where we have our lunches. Throughout the studio, and these studios has a really huge facade overlooking the Oslo fjord. So, and being from Scandinavia, or I mean Oslo, we have part of the year we have sun almost all the time, and then the other part we almost have no sun at all. And obviously that forms us as people, as designers, how we work with light. And one of the things that we humans are the most sensitive to is change. And when you're in the Nordic, you're constantly in change. And that obviously also drives how we design, how we function. We love to work physically when we can. We run workshops in our studios where we have a wood workshop, we have a model making workshop, and we even have a ceramic workshop. Very craft-driven tools, but something that helps us get in touch with the materials, to feel them, to understand them, to help us explore new materials and understand them together with other specialists. So our studio is also built up using a lot of things that isn't as refined. It's things that we've used again and again and again, and keep evolving our studio very organically. Up until now, we have been going through a big transitions. Now, today, we have 9 studios around the world where we try to embrace that Nordic model and bring the same values into those studios. We have multiple disciplines, and from landscape architecture to architecture, interior architecture, product design, and graphic design, and even art. And one of the things that truly makes Snøhetta unique in that way is maybe how we work with these different disciplines. in our studio, each discipline has their own motivation, their own goal, and works towards becoming or doing the best work that they can within that segment. And we believe by having that approach, instead of having a supporting role for other disciplines, we create a much stronger whole as a dynamic professional unit. We only brought one project to actually talk about today, and thought it would be a relevant project since it is a lighting project. So there's a nice installation in the hallway here. We were lucky enough to be approached by Lodus, asking us actually during the pandemic. So this was very much digital, getting to know each other, because all our projects is really about the people that we work with. They asked us if we could develop something they didn't have in their portfolio, the archetypical light that could be used in any space, a very flexible lighting product that literally can fill the volume of any space. And in Snøhetta, quite naturally, we talk a lot about prepositions, meaning the body in relation to an object. If you're below it, if you're next to it, if you're above it, inside of it or outside of it. And that became the starting point of this product. And very quickly we understood that we need to go into an archetype that is quite common. And maybe every serious lighting company has this or should have one of these. And it's the white spherical light, which is so functional in very many different spaces. Now, coming from the understanding of the prepositions, we felt it was incredibly important that this object would feel as beautiful and as thoughtful from every single angle, from below, from next to, and from above. And in the same way, we were questioning, can we do that and also light up a full 360 degree? Now, keeping in mind the beauty that the craft that Lodus brings in, a long heritage of glass making, having this as a starting point, it told us this is something beautiful and we need to make informed decisions on how we maintain this beauty. Working with glass this way, it's a craft that hasn't changed that much in a lot of years, and you could say it's this imperfection that really builds it, this man-made material. And it reminded us that we have a project that we made a few years ago that we actually never launched, and it was our exploration into sculpture and glassmaking. And it was something that we called Happy Bubbles. And we wanted to just discover, how do we make something truly beautiful with glass? What we found was that it's truly the imperfections, the human aspect of glass, that really makes these objects beautiful. We created several of these bulbs or balls that are each individual and fully handmade based on our hand sketches. So we thought we want to do a similar approach to this in how we can develop this light. So we made several hundred hand drawings to eliminate the digital development of the product, to have a human approach in how the forms came to be. And out of those, we made a selection that we made into 4 distinct shapes that has become the lamp collection. Now also, working with Lodus, it was important to us that we maintain the human aspect also in terms of we want the utmost and best technology in this product, but really good technology should work not disturb. So everything is hidden inside and designed towards the human aspect. There's one more on animation, but it's because we've extended this collection this year to also go as a floor, ceiling, and wall mounted product, completing the collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you. Pretty impressive. I love this idea of imperfection that you mentioned, that belongs to humans, but also I think nature, in a way.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's the beautiful thing. We as a society, we've been working towards almost this like impossible homogeneous perfection, and we find more and more, maybe more now than ever, we need to embrace that randomness in nature. And if you look at nature, I mean, nothing is 100% symmetrical. Everything is uneven, but that doesn't mean that nature isn't beautiful. Nature is beautiful. It's the imperfections there that makes up the whole.
So it's a celebration of imperfection.
Exactly.
Barry, I think it's now your turn to share a little bit of your experience within the Rockwell Group.
When we were asked to speak here, I thought, that's great. You know, we love light. At Rockwell Group, you know, we love light in all the aspects. As a decorative object, we love it as a design tool, as an element. It's that piece that can transform, you know, spaces. It helps create a sense of choreography. We're drawn to it like a moth to a flame. And I think it's sort of critical because light is that element that draws people together, connects that social human aspect. It's how we come together is usually based on light, the elemental campfire. That's what draws us together. And so light is the sort of thing we love, and we want to, you know, we want to play with it. We want to invent with it in many different ways. So we've showing a couple different things. A decorative light. We're going to talk about this. We have a light here, Laicos. We worked with them in 2007. We created this when back in the day. Went to Murano and hand-blown glass cylinders. We like that kind of stacking coffee cup approach where you can kind of stack them up. We love the playful kind of color plastic coffee cups. And we thought, wouldn't it be great if you could, you know, collect them and stack them up in your own way you'd like? So we create stacking. So this has been here since 2007. Comes in a variety of colorways, so you can create your own piece. David Rockwell has one, and of course he has the tallest one in the office. He added a few more pieces. So this was the genesis of a collection that we've now kind of taken further. And so now we've taken it to another level for a silica glass, continue the stacking elements, linking things together both horizontally, vertically. It could be a variety of glass, taking advantage of the kind of tradition of colored glass, mixing glass together to give a lot of opportunities to customize it, make it more individual and unique for everyone and their tastes. And there's a little animation showcasing this. So we want to keep it, and we start out, you know, a lot of colors, but this is showing the simplicity of just a really strong, beautiful light, a light that's soft, that's easy to look at, that illuminates, you know, the surfaces you need, brings people together to create sort of a light that can be used in many different ways. So we've actually done a number of lighting collections, 4 different ones, and we launched another one with Lasvit, Constellation. There's nothing better than like when you look up in the sky to see the constellations. And so in spaces, could we create something else like that? So we have a few constellations. And there's different elements of this. But a lot of our background comes from theater, looking at theater and scenography and how you use light in theater. Because like, where is the big moment, the big production number? Where do you put all the lights on and all the actors are on stage? And where are the smaller, more intimate moments, the book numbers, where the spotlight is there? So thinking about that choreography, the scenography, how do you kind of bring that into your experiences to tell a story, to create a narrative? And so kind of a few shows, the Rocky Horror Show, the whole stage flipped and rotated and transformed into Rocky's house. We use light there. The whole ceiling, when we get into Rocky's laboratory, it was all these Pyrex beakers. We filled them with goo, and then illuminated so you get that glowing goo that was on the top ring. We also did hairspray, and way back in the early days when we were just seeing LEDs, we thought, oh, this would be cool, and we really loved Light Bright, the Light Bright toy. We put little colors and pegs in there to create a sense of, just playfulness. It's like playful and inventive. So we created this huge Light Bright wall. These kind of plastic garbage cans were over this Light Bright. And it's one of the first uses of LEDs in the theater. And so it transformed the set when we went from Baltimore into the 60s, and it came alive, and it became a sort of its own kind of scenic element. And it was danced with the sort of dancers here on stage. So it was very dynamic, changed color. It was kind of an inventive kind of piece of light. We also did the Oscars, and we included crystals, Swarovski crystals, and who couldn't go wrong with 100,000 Oscars, I wouldn't exaggerate it, 100,000 crystals. So there was lights behind, theatrical lights behind the whole crystal surround to the theater, so it came alive. It was dynamic every time you came in and out of a shot. It was kind of a big, spectacular shot. It's but one night, but we created lights that would be in the house just simply by, I think we took, Christmas lights and strung them together and put them in a big canister to create something look glamorous, look like LA, something's fabulous. And then, kind of illuminated all the edges and the seating. We had designed the theater 10 years prior, and then we wanted to kind of transform it into another space, blue and gorgeous and glamorous. And so theater's kind of our background. It's our background of how to bring a sense of choreography, scenography, narrative, storytelling. How do you support the sort of action that happens within an environment by all the kind of design that you touch, you feel? How do you gather people together? That is kind of the places. So light is one of those tools. It helps just kind of, in the end, bring people together, and you becomes a place that gathers people and not to use the skin, and then showcasing. Well, we use it in all of our projects, everywhere from a chandelier that is occupiable. It was a 3-story chandelier. It probably had 1 million beads on there, so you can be both inside and outside this. Kind of a fun place to kind of create in Las Vegas at Cosmo, a really spectacular space that you can kind of be dynamic. We shot light onto it, but because glass is clear and translucent, light shoots through it. So behind us also strings that so it can pick up the light, and so we can have both the sort of dynamic light movement as well as the kind of a shine and sparkle and specular effect of crystals. Lighting the edges, dynamic the transformation from going downstairs to upstairs. This is an addition. We do a lot of products, and we do sort of inventive things. We make things in the office. We did one whole pop-up dinner event where we knit everything. So these were like socks that we knit. We kind of dropped a light in. So these are knit socks that were hanging in the space. A rug we call Spotlight. It's like the silk hand-knotted rug, and it goes into the sort of duller wool. And so who wouldn't want to be standing in their own spotlight at home? So you get your own sort of place importance. And a spotlight, we always think about light in the relationship to also fabrics and our other products. And as you can sort of see how we use it, all the elements, layering the light, that's kind of more important. It's not just one impact of light, it's all the layers from the natural light outside. This is Zetenia. It just opened in New York City on Broadway. It's Jose Andreas' restaurant. So the chandelier is, handmade linen pieces that are hanging in space, and a whole collection of them. And they were hand painted as well, to kind of based on an inspiration of Jose Andreas brought to us. And so we painted them, and Alpha Workshops made them. But all the elements that kind of create pinpoints of light. How do you create this sort of ambient light so you feel good? And it's really important at a restaurant that you feel and you look good. So you want to come together. That's kind of an important characteristic. So warm, glowing light. And so we kind of look at, creating all the elements, where you can kind of use decorative light, glowing light, ambient light, specular. So it creates a whole kind of ambiance that is a place where you can gather, come together, transforms the space, takes them day into night. This was a bar, simple kind of rondelles of glass with lights behind them to come activate that whole space. So lighting is one of the things we love. We like to play with it. We like to be inventive with it. It's our products. It's part of our space. It's a tool. And it really comes from a thinking about how light helps celebrate, the sort of theater and really essentially how we live together and come together. Thank you.
Thank you. Very interesting, this theatrical approach. You talked about choreography and scenography, and this shows in the projects that you presented quite a lot. You talked also about materials in a way, different types of materials and how they contribute to the making, and together, to create decorative lamps that contribute to the overall experience. Talking about materials, I would like to hand it over to you, Lucie, and maybe share a little bit of your experience with light and how different materials, what roles different materials play in your design practice.
Thank you for the invitation. And I will share with you my vision of light, or how I see conceiving the design. I'm a designer from the Czech Republic, from Prague, and my universe mostly consists of light. I'm the art director of Brokis company, and this product is called Muffins, and this is how we basically started to collaborate together. It was year 2010, and I was at that moment living in Paris. I was living also in Stockholm and Gothenburg a little bit before, so just after the studies I went abroad, and then when I was based in Paris, I came together with Brokis and we started this first collection, which was actually quite a big start for us on the international scene. And from that moment, when we exposed during Salone del Mobile this collection, I got the opportunity to do a limited series for a Parisian gallery. And in this limited numbers, so we were supposed to show first in Paris and also all over the world. So that was our start. And 3 years after, I became the art director. And my light mission is, I usually think of light as an energy. I love seeing it as this vibrating energy that I'm trying to capture into a sculpture. And I think that the value is like the sculpture itself, that is resonating the energy. So for me, it's not just the product. It's like the energy that you need for well-being, that is actually accompanying at home or during your activities during the evenings, but also during the day. This is a portfolio that we have been creating. We work with glass. The company is also the owner of Glassworks, 200 years old. It originated back at that time, and the owner 25 years ago took over this company and actually saved the craftsmanship in that region. And all the region is working in the glassworks, which I find fascinating and fantastic, that every person working in the glass workshop has the relationship with glass and is touching each piece. More than 20 people are touching each piece and talking about the imperfections. I think I know what it takes, what it means, because, well, I'm on a daily basis in touch with imperfections, and usually designers strive for perfection. We're obsessed by being perfect, and I think that this teaches me truly how to let go, how to admire glass, how to admire craftsmanship, and this is the treasure and the legacy that Czech Republic has. Yeah, and maybe also the Italians, of course. I would not take it just for Czechs, but I think that this is what we're famous for, and we try to elevate it also with contemporary design. So me as an art director, I work with different materials. I work with turned metal, which is also handcrafted. We work with wood, with patinated metal, with leather, with ropes. So material plays a key role in the portfolio and in Brokis, and also personally for myself. This is a red line of the collections. And this is somehow a chart with some key points that I have in mind when I thought of my vision or the concept of light. Craftsmanship and glass obviously are the starting points, and I think understanding not just the current scene and having the vision where we're going, where we lead let's say the design, like the timeless approach that we are having. We need to think of sustainability, because this is nowadays the key point that we all have to take care of and we need to work on. Always we try to bring a smart solution, like easiness in composition of lights. I love working with gravity. They were my first collections that I just simply, but in a smart way, I connected together and I stack one on each other. So I think that this smart way has something to do with the easiness that the user can see the beauty of glass and an easy idea. And this is like just an overview of the materials that I was talking. Here you can see also marble, of course, and Brokis glass, which is extremely important for Brokis. And I will further talk about it more into the detail. I wanted to present Das Haus, which had a big impact on the world scene. I was given the chance to be a guest of honor of Das Haus project in Cologne 2018, before COVID happened. And it was about the atmosphere, about the ambience. I wanted to show different cells where each cell had a different lighting concept and draw the ambience in a different way. This was a dressing room where I wanted to see more extrovert approach to how fashion seems to me. While in the relaxation zone, I wanted to play with an organic curtain of light. So I came up with a light which contains just little opal soft bubbles. It's called ivy. So as the name tells you, so ivy is everywhere. So it's like a collection. It's a family. From the suspension to wall scones, it can actually exist everywhere. Also, it's outdoor as an outdoor lamp. And this is like ideas floating in the air. This was my creative space in the studio, like an atelier where the walls didn't matter. You should just see the objects that should inspire you. And I would love to talk about light and atmosphere and to show you the lighting concepts in the space, because as a designer, obviously we need to think very universally, because all the collections are sold in more than 100 countries all over the world, and there is a different way of thinking of architects, maybe in the US, maybe in Australia, in Asia. So many products need to be thought of like universally. We need to fulfill the architectural needs, but also we need to bring new ideas, like to inspire them as well. However, sometimes we also do our own interior architecture. Like I'm working on a hotel recently. last 2 years, and this is also a source of inspiration for me, because then I see where my product can be fitted if I'm missing something, or if the portfolio should be, if I should add something completely different. And this is a restaurant that I've made in Czech Republic. It's a 5-star hotel called Miura, and this central composition, it's like a tree of linear hand-blown lines. This collection is called Puro, and you see the spotlights being very atmospheric when you sit during the dinner, and when you want to have more effects, you put everything on, so you can play with the intensity and also with the direction of light. And there is Muffin Lights. This is the very first collection of mine that was designed in Paris, and this is a cottage or a chalet in Switzerland. Here there is shadows. It's funny that we talk about light and shadow, and this was an adaptation on atelier lights that I usually saw in Paris in those old spaces made from metal, very, very nice, but old and historical. So we made this collection that pays tribute to these atelier lights. On this slide we can see Mona lamp, and I wanted to work with some archetypal shape, which is like a shape of a bell, and my idea was to bring a source that would penetrate the volume, so that I don't make just like an outskirt for a light bulb, but it's one of the good sellers. And now we get many, of course, adaptations from different sides, but back in time it was very interesting approach to the penetration of the 2 volumes, which we developed in Brokis further in other collections too. And you see whistle lights on the left. This collection is sort of spotlights, and to make this volume in this cone with an inhaled bubble inside, it might look easy, but when I was in the glass factory and I saw the first prototypes, the glass blowers were really not happy about it. So every time I need to prototype some lamp, I try to challenge the guys. It's either in size, in height, like the Puro lamp, or the techniques are maybe at the first spot very difficult for them. And as it was here, like people don't like change, so the glass blowers are always very unhappy to start a new product, but Brokis always managed to bring it to the market. I would like to talk about the novelties which we are showing at Euroluce, and this Materiality is about extravagance and reflections, and I was inspired by brutalist architecture. This is a full body metal prism, so it's accompanied by a hand-blown glass diffuser and a simple globe. You can see how it can work in the interior. It comes in horizontal and vertical lines, and also floor lamps. And on the right side you can see how it reflects the light and shadow, like the facets playing with different shades of colors. And on the left side, how it draws the light in the darkness. And overlay, I was talking about the need of sustainability and upcycling of materials. In Brokis, we work with shards, which came as a trash from blowing. And in this collection, I used 60% of glass shards into concrete. So this is basically how the upcycling process is made, that we try to replace the sand by the shards. And you can see what is the waste, how the waste looks like in the factory, that you go by and you just see 50% of the glass blowing, since we really need to keep the quality very high. The imperfections are of course valid, but we need to raise it high. So you see the
standard.
Yeah, it's a very high standard of the quality. And so we came up with the solution of reusing and melting the glass into Brokis glass material, which is used in the architecture, or we use it for products like this. And yeah, you see the pedestal, which is made from this concrete with glass shards, carrying the hand-blown tube with a light bulb in a linear shape that is sort of naked. You can see the purity and the sincerity. And this is the family of wall light, the pendant in gradient color, which is satinated, and it comes both clear or satinated. This is how it looks in detail. And the source is yeah, coming out. And the last collection is called Orbis. This is, as our colleague here was speaking about the need of the globe. I think that's a timeless shape that everybody loves, and each company needs to have, either in opal glass, where the light is diffused in a perfect way. And this collection was enhanced by this architectural cut from the top, so it's slightly different, using the connector that you can replace the shape, the sphere easily when something happens, you want to clean it, or you just want to change color for a party, you can easily disconnect it and use it. This is the cover for the special connector, which was done and developed by Brokis.
Clear.
This is how it looks in dark gray. And last, this is the project that I was talking about. It's in the Czech Republic, and I was asked by the investor to bring the ambience into a modernist building. So now the reconstruction is in the process, and I used the novelties within the space. This is a space of a restaurant, which should be completely disconnected from the hotel in order to bring people in easily for a laid-back atmosphere.
Different traffic.
And yeah, here you see the simple spotlights, or like a simple pendant. And this is the lobby, which then follows the overall style of the hotel. It is all bright and white, just by touches of color, and overlay collection is completing the style. Yeah, just another view of the lobby hotel.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So thanks again, everyone. Chad, I would like to bring it back. So very different approaches, same topic, light. We could be talking about light forever. But I would like to go back to this dualistic nature of light and shadow. You also mentioned, referenced Turrell's work, where the light element, the light source completely disappears, and it's all about the experience. Just, you know, couple of more things about that topic, which is, I think, very, very relevant to the conversation. Light that disappears, basically, the light source that disappears.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's about connecting, right? It's about, and Turrell like aligns things with the solar system, and we've taken that approach to kind of thinking about things in a primitive way, right? I think like thousands of years ago, when the sun would rise, everyone would be like, wow, that's an amazing moment. And I think we've like forgotten about those things. So, you know, we're trying to use the light as a kind of a marker of time, as you had mentioned, as well as of place. And of course, like the idea of the light is more impactful with the contrast of the shadow, sort of the yin and the yang.
Yeah.
You know, in Japanese architecture, like the shadow is sort of more important than the light. and a lot of it has to do with like the big overhangs of the structures and the low ceilings, and everything was wood, so they had to protect it, and the light had to kind of go deep. So you know, it's definitely, like we've spoken about, a material that we're using conscientiously, sort of our primary material.
Light as a material, natural material with all of its imperfections. So back to nature. It's also, when you were talking, Marius, I was thinking also about the scale, right? It goes from product to architecture. You seem to be like very confident at Snøhetta at working at different scales. You know, any connection with light and scale, or? I mean,
we're built on this multidisciplinary approach and appreciation for specialty. I mean, specialty is built around individuals and professions. In product design, what we strive to do is to really learn and extract the knowledge and experience throughout our studios, and then we use that in a way that we can bring value as product designers, and connect our other disciplines with the market and collaborators.
And then glamour is one of the words that stuck in my mind in, you know, listening to your work, to what you had to share. Can you expand a little bit on that? So light as one of the elements that contributes to the creation of glamour and
everyone wants to look good, you know, whether it's a selfie or you're coming together. I think that's sort of an inherent part of it. At the same time, we're relaxed. We have more relaxed environments. Mm-hmm. We also want to look better in those relaxed environments. So there's a twin kind of casualization of everything and glamorization of everything. You know, you have to look good in your laundry room as well as you look good in your kind of, you know, in your dining room. So there's a funny, so glamour is a kind of a piece we, you know, pull from a little bit of fashion, theater, all those things. It creates a sort of sense of, you know, I think it's a sort of a need for people to kind of, you know, feel a little more enhancements about their life. Glamour's not, I never think of glamour as kind of an element of our work. I think it's kind of an outcome. Mm-hmm. I think we want to create spaces that really support what people are doing and how they do it, and really make them really, we also want to create spaces that people love to be in and love to be about. And so I think that, you know, brings an edge of looking good. You know, the space looks good, everyone here looks good, you know, I think that's all part of that. So the glamour, and then we're in theater too, so when you're doing the Oscars, you know, when we did the second one, the first one was all about theater and live entertainment, and the second one was like LA glamour, like celebrate LA glamour and its big swooping, you know, dynamic looks, and, you know, kind of spreads a lot of crystals and, you know, kind of expanses of, you know, great colors and stuff. So it's a part of the theater world. I think it's a part of our world that we're kind of, you know, moving into or a part of. But I don't think it's our essential thing. I think our essential thing is really support of activities, actions, how we live today, how can light, you know, transform spaces so it can be adaptable, useful, all of those things. Light is everything. You know, it's really not, that's what you said, we talk a long time about it. There's so many aspects, and, you know, glamour's one sliver of it, and there's a lot of other aspects that really where light contributes. I
would love to wrap up this with a little very quick sort of game. I would suggest 2 words, and you had to pick just one. And the 2 words, and let's start with you, Lucie. Artificial or natural? Functional or mesmerizing?
Natural.
Natural. And functional or mesmerizing?
Mesmerizing.
Same. Same.
Same. So natural, mesmerizing. You can also expand a bit on bit.
I think it's
maybe a why.
It's I would have a very hard time narrow it down. Everything is so contextual, so very depending on the context, really. Especially today with everything that's changing so rapidly.
Makes sense. Barry, natural or artificial, functional or mesmerizing?
Well, I think natural. Nature trumps everything. Sunlight, the sun, the sky, the moon, the stars. It's, being in nature is mesmerizing. It is the kind of place that we connect to the earth. Nature is an element of who we are and what we're about, and there's no way to trump that. So it's an easy answer, I think. Natural. And it just leads into this sort of, go in the forest, it's mesmerizing. Look in the sky, the stars, and all of that is mesmerizing. And that is the kind of connection to our lives and the kind of continuity of lives over generations.
Good, thank you. So definitely something to think about. You sparkled and
You gave it to us
ignited.
to think about.
Yeah. So thank you all again, and enjoy Milan Design Week. Thank you.
Thank you.